Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Mat Chat, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. I've got the round table today. My man, Ed Duncan, the director of USA Beach Wrestling. My brother from another mother, Mario Flores, the head coach of the Michigan Rev Wrestling Club, and your first ever beach wrestling world champion, U20 and senior and junior college national champion, and I believe outstanding wrestler, Eliana Bommarito. That is a mouthful for everybody, but welcome, guys and gals. How is everybody doing?
Awesome. Good morning.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Morning. Afternoon.
So let's start out with the guest of honor. Eliana, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I was somewhat familiar with your career when we were putting matchups together for the Border Brawl in Michigan. And obviously you worked with Mario. And you've been very vocal about the weight class situation. I want to use this as a chance for you to talk about your beach wrestling experience and also that. But basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, because of the weight class situation, besides junior college wrestling, beach wrestling is the best avenue for you. Is that a fair sentence?
It's definitely a nice little an opportunity kind of path, like for me, somewhere I can get a little higher up.
Because after your junior college career is over, unless they change the weight classes, your collegiate wrestling career, unless you decided to amputate limbs, you'd probably be done wrestling in collegiate style, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so let's start out with, when did you make the decision to do this beach wrestling tour? I know it's a series of events. Let's just start with that. When, and then what was that process mentally like?
It was at near the end of my season for college, which was I'm forgetting the month, but it was this year, I believe.
Yeah, beginning of March, probably, give or take a week.
Yes.
Yep.
Right when like beach wrestling season started up is when I did it. Just because Mario and I have been talking about it, like we kind of like mentioned it last year a little bit, and like it didn't really seem like a possibility because it was just like more like talk rather than like something we would do. And then this year it was kind of like we were like seeing it and we're like, hey, I'm free. And then he kind of just was like, let's do it. And I just got thrown into it pretty much.
Okay, so this is probably a good time to jump over to Mario. So we became, well, I don't know if we're friends because I put you to work a lot. I think we're friends. You still take my call. We became good friends during the Michigan Border Brawl, and you've done a couple podcasts with me about junior duels and things like that. And I know how much you care about your athletes. And so obviously understanding the weight class situation, what was your vision for how all this could potentially go for Eliana?
So Ellie is, in my opinion, a once in a generation type athlete, right? You have physical, you have technical, and you have just a personality. And so what happens next when you're looking at Endgame? So right after her senior year of at Fargo, she won it, and then she had her sign the Grow Ad 235. So just 2 weeks after that, I went to the Coaches Summit in Colorado Springs, and I was able to sit next to Gary over at lunch, and he was like, I think the next step for her is beach wrestling, and it has an unlimited weight class, so you need to connect with Ed, and I'm gonna connect with Ed and let you hook you guys up, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay, so this is funny because I called Gary Abbott about doing this podcast, and he goes, I wonder if it'll come out that I'm the one that suggested that we have to do beach wrestling. So we are 4 minutes in, and Gary, you got your shout out. So all right, go ahead.
This was Gary's brainchild. So we had talked about it before, and I had called Coach Steiner and said just said, hey, listen, we have this young lady. What does this look like as being the head of senior women's wrestling? And so we had talked a couple times, and then it moved on, and time passed. I guess a whole college wrestling season. She wins a college national championship, and then right before Argentina, Gary sent me a text like, hey, we chatted and we kind of explained the process of how the World Beach Series worked. But in order for her to qualify, the carrot was Bali, right? So it was trying to qualify for this World Beach Games that were scheduled for Bali. And so in order for that to happen, she would have had to go to Argentina. And I think we had like less than 3 weeks to get at least for the deadline, right? So Miss Jamie would have had to make sure that we were registered and had accommodations. So we were pushing that deadline, and we were just like, Ellie, this is what we're doing. Good thing that we've been together for a long time, and hopefully she still trusts me after throwing her in all over the world. She can tell you about her adventure getting to Argentina. But she said yes, and then we moved forward, and then it was her first time even touching beach wrestling, and she went out there, and she can even tell you about that experience. But and then the rest is history. We were able to follow it up with the things that the way that beach wrestling played out with Bali not happening, and then what happens next, and that's where Ed comes in and kind of guided this a little bit further. So it was a collective effort, and we're here to celebrate that.
Yeah. So let me circle to you, Ed. So I know you from the Midwest Beach Wrestling Nationals. You could sell ice water to a drowning man. You've never met a microphone you didn't like, but I know how much you love the sport and how good you are for the sport and all aspects of it. And we hit it off because we're probably both so shy and introverted together.
Yep.
But I feel like your role in this is maybe a little bit similar to mine in Border Brawl, in that I have these amazing athletes wrestle in something that, I'm in charge of, and I don't necessarily have a ton to do with their success. You try to make the accommodations as good as possible, and you can claim them as alumni later. And to quote Mario, when you have a generational athlete, a generational wrestler, somebody who can do it all, and for you guys to break through at this level to have a world champion, maybe just, you're probably the best of the four of us to talk about the historical context of that, having been involved in it so long. And I'm guessing you probably recognized Eliana was pretty special pretty quickly.
Well, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, David. And in this case, I consider myself very lucky, and I consider USA Beach Wrestling very lucky that these connections got made. And, things are such a thin thread sometimes. Mario was talking about sitting next to Gary, and Gary had texted me and said, hey, there's this girl up in Michigan that you might ought to think about trying to encourage to do beach wrestling. And I'm not sure. I think I texted Ellie on like Instagram or something and just said, hey, I just did my spiel. Ellie can nod yes or no if I sent the text, but like
when you said you texted her on Instagram, you sound like you're 117 years old. I think as you sent a direct message or a message.
That's what I think I did. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I did. I think I did. Anyway, next thing I know, she shows up and like she's having success, and I'm like, oh, awesome, this is cool. So and I had seen the sign and knew a little bit, and she's been herself, which I love, and has done a great job. She's just stepped right into the role, and so it's been awesome. That the fact that like the connections got made, she got in the right place at the right time, and she is a competitor and a warrior, and a super good wrestler. So that's exactly what we needed, and so it's worked out pretty darn good.
Yeah. Mario made sure I was social media friends with all the parents of the athletes. So I saw Sandy out there putting out GoFundMe's and pictures and everything else. And so shout out to her for all. I'm sure she was instrumental in making all this happen as well. Mm-hmm. So Eliana, I'm super curious, having watched beach wrestling, number one, I think it's really, if you've never wrestled before, it's pretty freaking simple to understand. I think it's a lot easier to understand than like some of the rules in freestyle, Greco, or folk style. But there are adjustments that have to be made. Obviously, until recently, girls wrestling or women's wrestling didn't have Greco at any level. So you didn't have to adjust from Greco. But in a lot of ways, beach wrestling is more like Greco than freestyle, like in terms of not hitting your knees and things like that. What, if any, habits did you have that were successful for you in folk style, freestyle, that you had to adjust, tweak, eliminate for beach wrestling?
I would say, I am naturally more like an upper body wrestler even on the mat, and that's definitely helped me like in the sand. But there was like a struggle when I got to the sand with like footwork. Like it's definitely completely different compared to the mat. Like it's a lot more difficult to move around. It's something you have to adapt to. You have to learn to really like pick up your feet and stomp and like hold your ground and just kind of be like sturdy wherever you're at.
So less floating and more. And for people, I guess, that don't understand, and Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the first 1 to 3. A takedown is 1. Bringing somebody to the ground is 1. A feet to back, but like directly to back, not like rolling, is 3, and the match is over. And the clock is running. Is that correct? There's no stoppages for out of bounds. Is that also
Stoppage up for out of bounds? Yeah,
there is at the highest level. Okay, but it's
and then there's a point for out of bounds push outs.
Yeah, point for push out, but it's 1 period.
Right.
3 minutes.
That's it.
So, and when we do that tournament in the Ozarks, most of the matches last like 45 seconds to a minute. Like it's fast. Like you can't go get a soda. You'll miss 14 matches. So it's like you got to pick a time when your kid's not wrestling to go get lunch. So, Eliana, it sounds like there's a good story there with the travel. You want to, Mario, kind of tee that up? How hectic was the first trip? What happened?
To Argentina.
Landed at Chile. She's been on a world champions tour, so she's got her. She's been going to all kinds of concerts and activities, and so she's been celebrating. I'll remind her that she got stuck in Atlanta, and
we everywhere.
Yeah, to reroute her to Chile before she was able to go to Argentina, and this was her first time flying internationally by herself, I think.
Yeah, I think that was I thought I was gonna miss the event because I flew in and I was like I missed my connect, and then I was basically told like I wouldn't be able to get like a new flight till like later, and I wouldn't be there till after like wrestling was supposed to start. So I was like panicking, and I was like I'm gonna miss like my first event, and it's just kind of like a stressor. But then I get like these little side adventures where I'll like do some connecting flights elsewhere to get there, and it's just like little detours everywhere. It's funny, and it's like you get new experiences, you meet like new people, and it's definitely cool.
The world, there's some messed up stuff, but there's a lot of good people in the world. And I think if you tell them what you're trying to do and you're literally representing our country, there's probably a lot of kindness out there, and people will do their best to accommodate you.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, you're obviously grown, but not 21 and have a job and all that stuff yet. And so I'm sure you've probably experienced a lot of kindness on that. I am a type A berserko planner, so I probably would have lost. If I hadn't just shaved my head, I would have pulled whatever hair I had left out watching all that happen. So
yeah, no, I one thing I do remember from like the events of just being on that is I was talking to like Mario. I would like call him, and I just remember like Lori like getting on the phone. She's like, you tell that person that you are a USA wrestler and you are representing the country, and you tell him to get you a plane ticket right now. And I was like, you know what? Can you just like put her on speaker? And I was letting her like handle it for me because she was there and ready.
That's your wife, Mario? Lori?
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to her one time on the phone, so I could definitely see that happening. That story reminds me a little bit of when Jaden qualified for the Olympics and had to get his passport in like a day and a half. And, most of us, it's a 2-month process. And for Jaden, it was 36 hours. Yeah. So the world does work differently depending on where you are in it, for sure. So Mario, how long have you coached? How old was Eliana when you started coaching her? And I know I just saw your post from Super 32, by the way. Congratulations on all the hard work you guys brought back from there. But let me start with how old was she when she started? And then just how meaningful is this? Because you're clearly not like just somebody that carried her sweatshirt. Like you're somebody who's, I'm just saying, like you're somebody who's truly important in that process. I know how much you love the kids you coach and the parents. And I mean, I got to have dinner with all you guys one night, and it literally is one big family. So,
Sure. So Ellie started wrestling when she was in middle school, 7th or 8th grade. And then she showed up maybe 8 years ago. She might have been 13, maybe 12 or 13. She was just a little girl. But she showed up at our club, and she was our first female wrestler. So she was the only girl in our club, but she was big but young, and so she would have to wrestle with some of our boys, and they would wrestle. And we have some pretty talented boys, but that are that size. So we really do well with upper weights too. So she was in there and just scrapping, and she really didn't. Right, she was learning, and so but she was there every day. And then Sandy came in, and I think the connection just was there. Right? So mom is a gem, and so I think the family element came when Sandy just starts helping. Right, she comes in and she wants something to do, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't have a task for you. It's the first time that like parents have come in and volunteered to like start cleaning, like refilling water and trash cans, and I was like, Ellie, what is your mom doing out there? And she's like, I don't know. She's just a busybody. So,
but in the best way, in the best way, right? So we love Sandy. And so she started cleaning during the times when Ellie was there. And as a coach who always looks for great parents, I'm like, yes, let's keep that family around. The daughter is really talented and the mom is super helpful. And then just over the course of time, she became our heavyweight on our dual team when we started competing. And so the high school she went to is essentially just 6 miles down the road. And so we just stayed, right? So she just became one of our club athletes and really just developed over time. And over the course of the last 8 years, just really kind of joined our family. So we're super lucky to have all the girls, right? So she has 2 other sisters, and we celebrate holidays together, and we do it. So it's great. How important is it? So for people that don't know, and you won't say it, but you arguably have one of the best clubs in America, period. And I would argue the #1 female club in America in terms of accomplishments. And when Terry Pack said, this is the guy to call in Michigan if you want to put together girls matches, from his lips to God's ears, you were a superstar. You were the real MVP of that event. But I mean, you've coached a long time, Mario, and you and I have talked a lot off the air, probably as much as more off the air.
Sure.
And sometimes you need somebody to just go first and just be good. And maybe you think you're a good coach, but like, man, I need somebody to win so that everybody else knows I'm a good coach, right? Like there's something in validation. And, everybody says trust the process, but if there's 100 different processes, they might not all be trustworthy.
Sure.
Now that, you guys have built it up now, like whether or not Eliana had won or not, you got people winning belts, you got people winning stop signs, all that stuff. But it's a new level, right? Like this is a new level. Like next, now it's put people on the world teams, on the age group teams, which I know you guys have done, but like getting podiums there. How important is this just for the psychology of your whole room? Like, like for me, I always thought like, I'm friends with Kenny Monday, and he said, who is your favorite wrestler? I'm like, I like Dave Schultz. And he goes, why not me? And I said, I couldn't do what you could do. Dave Schultz was slow and I'm slow. So it was more relatable to me. So how important is it to have somebody win something this big that's relatable? And because I'm sure you guys were the people that, I know you were there, but all these people are probably watching in the wrestling room. And I wish I had a video of that. That would just be bonkers, I'm sure.
It's emotional. It is when you work this hard, and I think what we do here is we create this environment, this training environment that's fun, but they work right. Business is business, and everything else is right process and joy and memories and experiences. But when you put that much into each other, you expect something, right? And I saw this quote online, and it was just like a real coaching is coaching an athlete trying like hell not to let the other one down. And so for us, somebody like Ellie who has to trust me enough to not want to let me down, and me have to find and make a way technically, financially, everything else, right? Everything between emotionally and spiritually, and kind of guide what a world level athlete looks like. And we're both just doing it, right? So she's providing this, and I'm constantly looking for mentors and God and what does the next step look like. So we're chasing something too, right? And in the process, everyone is coming together. So again, the levels of where we are and the levels that we're trying to get to are constantly developing. And so for us, having Ellie come through the door with world championships, and she comes in and everybody, it's just like practice. So the day after she came in, she was behind on homework. So she's sitting on that couch with her laptop, and I come in, and she's here before I am, and she's already back to work. And that's just who she is, right? That's what makes a 19-year-old world champion, that, right? So whether she wasn't here doing work, whatever, practicing, but she was here doing schoolwork. And then we were there, and somebody was like, we were teasing that she still doesn't have her driver's license, but she's getting it. But why does somebody like her not have a driver's license at 19? There's no time, and I look at people, and somebody, like, their eyes shifted, and they were like, that's, everybody has a driver's license at 19. And I said, not a senior level world champion, because she's committed to her lifestyle. So she's too busy. Find 2 weeks where she's not training or learning or traveling, right? So for her,
Ellie, you need to get sponsored by Uber. Okay, you need to make an NIL deal with Uber. All right, I only want 10% for the idea, 5% for Lyft. Okay, there's a deal there. There probably is a deal there. So one other quick question tied to that, Mario, and I jumped to you. The kids, okay, your kids, Mario, the kids you coach, like, again, like, I know, like, CeCe Williams won, was the first girl to win a match in Midlands. Like, I know you've had a ton of kids win stop signs. If there's people that are sort of doubting themselves, I'm assuming Ellie, especially wrestling with boys early on, took her lumps like we all do in the sport when you first start, and maybe even more so as a girl wrestling boys. If there's kids that are struggling, I assume this is a really positive coaching point to say, hey, this person went through the journey and they came out on this side of it. Trust our process, stay the course. I assume that's a message that you're able to send now with more fervor.
100%. If we said we could, and we thought we could, but until you do it, right?
Yeah.
There is a level of doubt or questionability. And I think this validates what we're doing here, right? The coaching staff we brought in, the environment we've created, the family and the network of people and the relationships that they've had is it's legacy making. So we're grateful for her, and we just want to celebrate her too, right? So we're grateful for it, but she deserves all of it, and she works so hard. So kudos to her.
Ellie, for you, like, I was a pretty good wrestler and won some things, and then I did jiu-jitsu when I was like 36 and was able to win a couple world titles. And when I was 36, I think I appreciated it a lot more. Just like how many, like, I'll be honest, like, when I won state for the first time at 15, I was a huge jerk, like, just super myopic. And as you get older, I think perspective, the world's a humbling place. What is your perspective on all this? Like, how many people have poured into you? Even just like Lori getting on the phone and helping you in Atlanta, Ed making things happen, Gary calling people, certainly Mario, your mom, Sandy, and then all your training partners and everything else. People are training with you probably in sand that are not going to wrestle in sand themselves, and they're sacrificing so that you can have your, the optimal path to victory. When you think about all this, when you're, not studying for the driver's test or not taking, studying for math at Indian Hills, like, what's your perspective on all this?
Well, obviously I'm very grateful for everybody that's put in the time to help me, and just been there throughout everything that I've been through as well. Like, it's just, I think of it more of as a group effort, and I'm always thinking about my future, and I'm kind of just I always have it in my mind, think of those people, think of what you want to also do for them as well, to thank them, and just because I'm just so grateful. And I definitely, Mario's been a big support, and just he's been there through all of it. And I'm I don't know how I could have done any of it without him.
I like to tease Mario, but he's too good of a person to give any real trouble to.
Yeah,
I
That's
did get
awesome.
Mario. I got Mario at junior duels. I got him to come out with me with the coach from the team that beat him in the finals, but everybody broke bread and it was good. So Ed, obviously your role in this, is different, but you and I spoke. This podcast was your idea. And I knew Ellie personally, and I knew Mario really well personally. Just like we talked about for the wrestling club, somebody being first, okay? This is the first for the entire USA Wrestling beach effort, which you're traveling all over the country, all over the world, promoting beach wrestling. And when I about the microphone, it's a compliment, man. There's a lot of people that can't do what you do, and you make it effortless. You look effortless. I'm sure it's a skill to make it look that good, to be that smooth at it. And it's so that you're growing the sport, literally growing that sport. I know there's a push to try to get it to the Olympic level in maybe 2032 now that we have flag football in 2028. Go ahead. Yeah, you should shake your head, Mario. That's a bad decision. So, for people that are only listening to this, Mario non-verbally expressed his displeasure with that decision.
Flag football? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a whole. I shouldn't take us down that path. But Ed, now you've got your Neil Armstrong, right? You got your first. Somebody's made it to the moon. How does USA Beach Wrestling? I don't know a better word than capitalize on this. I don't want it to sound like that way, like it's take. But how do you guys take advantage of this situation, this moment, to certainly celebrate Eliana, but to make it bigger, to go 50,000 feet with this thing?
Right. Well, I think that's the next challenge. And I think obviously when you're building a highway, somebody has to bulldoze the forest and somebody has to pave the highway first. And Ellie has sort of blazed the trail here she's been a trailblazer. I think I don't think she maybe knows that she's a trailblazer perhaps at 19, but she's been blazing a trail already with her career. And this to me is just another step in that. She's opened a door of opportunity. I know we had a U17 champ from here in North Carolina this year, world champion. And so the door's opening and the opportunity. And when you think about the fact that the U.S. has been going to these things for 17 years and we've not had a champion till now, got to give a lot of credit to Coach Box out in California and, coming on as the sort of the head coach for the Team USA, and guys like Mario who bought into the idea that this is a legitimate option for their kids. Amit won a beach wrestling title back in the day and when she was a U17. And so I think that's one of the challenges that we've been trying to do is legitimize this as an opportunity. And then to get the high level athletes like Eliana to participate. I mean, if you get a great athlete to do a sport, you're going to, as a coach, I'm walking the halls at the high school going,
yeah.
Oh, I want that guy. I want that girl. Right. And if you get the athletes, you look a whole lot better as a coach if you've got some good athletes. And
but like I said, one of the truest statements is recruiting is underrated and coaching is overrated.
Amen to that. But at the end of the day, results matter in America. We say Americans love winners, right? We love success. We love winners. And to have that, to be able to say, look, this is a possibility. The door is open here. And obviously, people are going to talk about a world champion. Yeah. And that's something that opens people's eyes. And if it brings more opportunity for more people, then that's, I'm all about that. And if they see beach wrestling as a legitimate opportunity, as a path to develop their wrestling career, I think it's a fantastic thing. And so, it's been a ride going out here and trying to grow the sport all over the country and trying to grow it around the world. We're not, we're just kind of getting started, honestly. I say that every time I turn around, but this is a first, right? I'm not planning on it being the last. This is just the first. The door's just.
I'm sure Eliana's not planning on it being the last. Her alone. So I think you have a consensus sentiment here. The four people on this call for sure. Yeah, but I also think it sparks interest in other people, right? And there's only 4 weight classes for men and women. So, but there's two kind of athletes really. There's elite athletes like Eliana that chose this for whatever reason, but there might be somebody who maybe was an alternate on the Greco team or an alternate on the freestyle team, and they want to go try to win a world title, and this becomes a viable option for them. And, if nobody from America had ever won it, part of you thinks on the outside, well, what's the point in going? We've never won it. Even if I make the team, I'm not going to win it. I'm trying to win it, right? And, like when I was doing jiu-jitsu, the gym I went to, nobody'd ever won anything close to that. And I'm like, well, my dad's coached a lot of guys that won a bunch of stuff, and he's an 8th-degree black belt in this. So I figure if I just do what he tells me, I'm probably not going to screw it up. And, that's pretty much, I didn't kill anybody, but I didn't screw it up, and then the whole gym starts believing, and you guys are having that and we haven't even talked about your junior college, Eliana, but I'm sure you had the Queens welcoming when you came back to school, right?
I'm going back this weekend, so we'll see.
Oh, you guys are on quarters there, not semesters?
It's trimesters, yeah, but right now
Okay.
I'm online, and
Gotcha.
then I will be going in person.
I'm sure nobody will make a peep when you show up. You were going to say something, Mario?
No, just that she's been home training. So she's been in Michigan up until the World Championships, and then we're going back to Iowa this weekend.
That makes a lot of sense. And I was actually going to ask that, like how much the your college coach carved time out, because if you're in a traditional semester scenario, there would have been obviously significant overlap, and so it probably worked out good this way. And I'm sure your coaches obviously have a chance of doing something sort of bigger. Like we're all going to claim you, Eliana. Like you were already on the poster for Border Brawl. The college is going to claim you. Beach Wrestling is going to claim you. Of all the people, Mario certainly deserves to claim you. The club, but like we just ran our Border Brawl last month, and we had those posters out, and people are like, "Man, you had some great people wrestling this," and I'm like, "Yeah," and I didn't coach any of them, but I was smart enough to call them. So what's next for you, Eliana? Like during the school year, are there any beach wrestling activities, or is it just collegiate season and then hit the beach stuff in the spring?
Right now it's just my plan to focus on school and then beach when it's over.
So freestyle until March again, and then beach going forward. And then I assume you'll figure out where you're going to go to school after that, because I'm guessing you'll have your AA and then go somewhere to finish up your last 2 years of school.
Yeah. I've been looking around, still trying to figure out what exactly I want to do. And then just seeing where it takes me.
Any idea what your major is going to be?
No clue.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a lot. It's math, science, English, history for a year and a half wherever you go anyway.
Yep.
So, again, Mario, get her in like travel or something, and then the driver's license thing will have to come as part of that major or something.
Or so she did go to Toronto and meet with WWE just a couple months ago. So she's got some ventures in the that are possibilities that she'll have to explore and do it. Just a lot of opportunities, right? So she's got the world by the tail right now, and I think that's the piece where like people with experience come in. Coach Ed, Dave, her college coaches over there. So I think that's the piece that she can, kind of step back and ask those questions and kind of maybe look for a little bit of guidance and then pray about it and then find a path that's good for her. So a lot of options when you're LEB. So
those are first world problems, right? Like I was like, if there's problems and there's problems, right? So, you could have not placed and then you wouldn't have all these problems. So, it's a good situation to be in. That's really the questions I had. I mean, and Eliana, just as somebody that had you in my event, again, taking zero accountability or responsibility for what you've done, but to see you succeed, obviously I knew you would be great when you won JUCOs. Like I was talking to a friend of mine about JUCOs. I'm like, if you can bet on this Bommarito girl now while the odds are good, you should do it. Because as soon as she starts wrestling, you're going to have to bet 10 to make 1. So, congratulations on everything. Ed, thank you for, so you guys don't know, like, I didn't know if I talked to Gary and made sure this podcast was okay because, the UWW weights are a scenario, and I didn't know if that was something, that would prohibit us from doing this, but Ed is the definition of pleasantly persistent. and stayed on me until we got it done. And it wasn't that I didn't want to. I just wanted to make sure we went through the proper channels. Mario, all joking aside, you're one of the best people in the sport and somebody I'm super proud to be able to call my friend, and probably as happy for you as I am for her. I know what it means to your program, and just to, to have somebody like, you're going to have kids keep hitting first, but this is a big first.
This is a big first. And let's, if I could just take a second and give a special recognition to her jiu-jitsu club. When she spent a lot of time there, and they have done a lot to encourage her, support her. And so if we could give, is it Freedom Jiu-Jitsu? Is that what it's?
Freedom Academy.
Freedom Academy. So she goes to jits how many days a week? And she loves it. She's out there.
Usually like 2 to 3.
Yeah. And they do an awesome job. So if we could just give them a little.
No, yeah. What city is it in? What city?
It's in Brighton.
Brighton, Michigan.
Freedom Jiu-Jitsu, or is it Freedom MMA and BJJ? What's the official title?
It should just be Freedom Academy. It's got like some words after it, but it's mainly just Freedom Academy. Freedom
Academy in Brighton. So I will tell you, I love jiu-jitsu, right? Like, I mean, it's a different Rubik's Cube. And, when you've been around wrestling a long time, sometimes your growth slope is fairly slow. When you do a new sport, it feels like, you're learning something every day. And the nice thing is in jiu-jitsu, if somebody is about to murder you, you can tap. Where in wrestling, you can't really tap. So there's less painful endings in jiu-jitsu than wrestling. I went and took one of my guys that I coached through Mizzou and had him work out with Tyrell Todd. And I got a call from Noah Certain saying, "Coach, I don't know what you did to Coach Todd, but every time now all he wants to do is jiu-jitsu and practice." And Tyrell's going to jiu-jitsu. He took his kids. He's teaching wrestling classes over there. So yeah, it's a definite hook, right? I mean, Ellie, you're smiling about it. Like, it's a different game. And especially if you're doing gi, especially on your feet, there's probably some skills that I would guess, transferable to beach wrestling, at least a little bit, where people can, tie you up a little bit. Probably the best advice I ever got about jiu-jitsu and wrestling was from Randy Couture. He said, gi is inch by inch, no gi is foot by foot, and wrestling is yard by yard. And he goes, if you try to gain a yard in an inch sport, you're going to get hurt. And so because there's no stalemates, there's none of that, and so it was really good advice, and, kind of is a good explanation for people that don't know it that well to at least get your head wrapped around it. So Mario, I hear that you guys in Missouri are going to do a duel at Fargo this year.
So that is, you're going to call it out now. I see you.
I want to make sure I got a spot on the mic, and if Ellie's not doing anything, maybe she can do the color commentary with me.
Well, Ellie came with us as a coach on Team Michigan to Fargo last year, and so she may be the official, or she may be the guest of honor. But yes, so Michigan and Missouri, 1 and 2 last year at the junior duels. We're gonna sand wrestle. We're gonna get in the beach there, and I guess at that volleyball court and get after it. I think that's awesome. I think we should get 5 or 6 teams to do a round robin there, and it's at the end. We've already competed. If they're only going to give us 2 days, then what are we going to do for a couple days? I have to be there with our boys. I would love to.
We're going to beach wrestle,
dude. I would love to wrestle heads up on the beach, and see what happens.
So Ed, this is since I put this together, you need to make sure I'm on the mic out there. Okay.
I disagree. 100%. That'll be good.
And but yeah, Cuthbert.
How about can we call out some other states? Can we get a little bit of Cali and PA and Iowa and
you can. I would.
You can call them all out right now. Like some of those.
Carolina's coming in, Mario.
Yeah,
we're the defending champs at this.
Well, you're the only team that would have a world champion, so you might be the one.
I'm reminding Arizona that we're the team champs from beach wrestling.
I knew this conversation would eventually denigrate, and I took it down the path.
Surely Gonzo can put a team together.
Yeah.
So, but the basic idea of it is, I think that's the other thing about beach wrestling, right? Like, it's not, the energy feels different. It's not that it's not serious, but it's, hey, like you said, you went through the grind in the dome, come over here, get some more matches in, get some experience. I talked to a coach this morning about Super 32s, and they said, like, hey, you win or you learn, which is a saying, but it's also true if you approach life the right way, right? Like you don't learn from winning generally, not the lessons the same way. So I'm excited you guys.
I had my first beach experience in Romania just a couple months ago, and I'm telling you, I'm a fan. I'm hooked. I'm sold on beach and what it's doing. Aside from Ellie's success, we had a blast. Our whole trip was awesome. We were able to, right? Destination is a beach in Romania, but in the process, we went to New York, we went to Paris, we went to the Netherlands, and so the whole time we're there. And then the next trip, she's in Greece, or where did you go? Turkey? Yeah, so she was in Turkey and Argentina. So she's everywhere she's going for somebody who loves to travel like her. Her end game is to wrestle and a beach. And she always gets to go out a day before or a couple days before, a couple days after, or however it works. And
Great.
yeah, look, it's awesome. I had a blast. So
and Dave, you asked about Ellie's career. So you just said it. Actually, you just revealed it. I think you said win or learn, and you don't usually learn much if you're winning. I think her career then is going to be a teacher, because she's got a whole lot more winning left to do. There's going to be a whole lot of kids getting taught by her around the world about how it works in the world of beach wrestling. So,
yeah,
the teacher.
It's awfully interesting. Like I had Ladarian Lockett on with his dad. He won a U17 world title, and it's interesting. And Eliana, no disrespect, like to talk to somebody who's not maybe a full grown adult yet, right? Like you can't, you're not 21, you're not paying taxes, all that kind of stuff, and don't speed up into that. Take your time getting to that stuff. But it's interesting catching certain athletes at the beginning of their journey, so to speak, or earlier to the beginning of their journey than the end. And the perspective. And I think the general consensus is kids or young adults are getting better and better sooner and sooner. That has a ton to do with the coaching, the internet, the travel, the fundraising, all that stuff. And the other thing is I think kids are way more mature and way more appreciative and understand where they are in the world. Like Eliana, your opinion of what you've done and your viewpoint of it being a team effort and all that stuff is very similar to Lockett's. And so it's good to see that our future is in good hands, that not only do we have kids that are winning, but they're actually good human beings. And, because we're going to root for you, even if you weren't a nice human being because you're from America, but it's nice to root for you when you're a nice person too. I mean, Sandy would yell at me if I ever didn't root for you. She'd come in and mop the mats or something and then yell at me about it. So, all right. What's funny is I just missed a call from Scott Cutbirth, Mario. So you guys are literally. So so people know he's the Missouri director for women. He's my homeboy. I was talking about him during the junior duels final because, when Missouri started, when he took over, there's like 5 girls wrestling, to build it to where they're good enough to even compete with the Michigan is significant. So tons of great people in our sport doing great things. Eliana, congratulations one more time. Mario, congrats. Ed, you're the man. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening, and we will speak to you all next week.
Thanks, Dave.